Hi, folks. Welcome back. Today, we're looking at our second unit of the art and culture mini unit in the Renaissance, which is, our second lesson rather, which is astronomy. And so back then, back in the times of the Renaissance, the beliefs that they had about the nature of the universe had been fixed for quite some time, actually for 1400 years. This Egyptian scientist by the name of Ptolemy, and let's represent him using a little figurine here. There we go, the tape measure. So Ptolemy came along and he said that the universe is structured like so, that you've got the sun, let's use this as the sun, and it is revolving around the earth. So the sun is going around us. And it makes sense, right? Because during the day, we can see the sun, and then at night, the sun disappears. It's on the other side of the earth. So it made sense. Why would anyone question this? And in fact, a lot of Christian scholars looked at the Bible, and there was a story about where I think it was Joshua who was fighting a battle, and then God stopped the sun in the sky. And it made sense that, of course, the sun is moving, so you would stop it. But things would change in the 1500s when a Polish astronomer who actually was a clergyman. He worked with the Catholic Church. His name was Nicolaus Copernicus. And he had a new idea. He theorized that it was the other way around, that perhaps the Earth revolved around the sun. And let's see, what shall we use for the Earth? Let's use this apple. Okay, the Earth revolves around the sun. But there was just one problem. Copernicus did not want to go public with this theory because he knew if he did, the Pope could consider it to be a sin, that he could be excommunicated. Yes, excommunicated meaning being kicked out of the church, and that was pretty much meant your life was over because you would be going to hell if you were disconnected from the church. So he wanted to be very careful. But on his deathbed in 1543, Copernicus said, okay, now that I'm going to die, I will have this published because no one's going to punish me for this. So he went to this monk, Osiander, and got it published. But Osiander, he actually wrote a preface in Copernicus's book saying, hey guys, we all know that the sun goes around the earth, not the other way around. These are just theoretical ideas. It's sort of like an intellectual exercise or a game to come up with the other idea. So the Ptolemy's theory was known as the geocentric model of the universe, meaning geo is the earth, meaning geo is central or centric. Copernicus's model was known as the heliocentric. So helio was the sun. And so I often think to remember that, I think the sun is hot, and helio, I think of helium, and helium is a hot air balloon. So heliocentric is the sun. So anyway, because of this preface, people said, well, why are we going to bother reading a book about things that aren't really true? For many decades, no one really paid attention to the heliocentric theory of the now dead Copernicus. Meanwhile, though, there would be a defender. There was a very outspoken man who was not nearly as politically sensitive, you could say, named Galileo Galilei. And he was an astronomer. He was in Italy. He was a very brilliant scientific mind. And he did not invent the telescope, but he received it actually from a friend in the Netherlands where it was invented. And he said, oh, I can make a much better telescope. So he made a telescope that was so powerful, it would actually be 200 years before anyone would be able to replicate its power. So just to let you know, Galileo, he was alive in the late 1500s to the early 1600s. And he lived to be about 80 years old. He was quite old when he died. So using his telescope, Galileo discovered some pretty amazing things. He discovered that there were spots on the sun. He also discovered, even more importantly, perhaps, that there were moons around Jupiter. And so this was actually really messing with the geocentric model of the universe, because they said everything revolves around the Earth. And that's absolutely everything. So how can another planet like Jupiter have moons when everything is supposed to revolve around Earth? It didn't make sense. It was contradictory to everything they believed. And the thing is with Galileo, not only was he bold enough to share these findings, but he was also he didn't care about hurting people's feelings. In fact, you could compare him very much to Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. Pretty much he believed, hey, I'm smarter than you, so you should just be quiet if you disagree with me. And so, had he been a little more diplomatic, like Copernicus, well, perhaps his findings wouldn't have been published. But because he was so outspoken and so brash, he was actually sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life. The last 11 years of his life were under house arrest as punishment for daring to defy this doctrine that the Pope said. The Pope said that it's a geocentric universe. And so that was pretty much the climate at the time. Now, I don't mean to paint the entire church with a tarry brush, because actually in the Middle Ages, the church was pretty much in medieval Europe the main source of old knowledge as well as new discoveries, such as the monk Roger Bacon. He actually did experiments with light and prisms. But that being said, definitely the church did not like being told that it was wrong, and Galileo did just that. So that's pretty much a look at astronomy in the Renaissance. And so you might wonder, well, how does this have to do with worldviews? How does it connect? Well, in a sense, it's very much the world, our view of the literal world, and how it would eventually, gradually over time, more and more people would come to embrace and see the logic behind the heliocentric model of the universe. There was just more and more evidence as eventually more planets and moons were discovered that, yeah, it's just overwhelming that that this is the case. So with the worldview, basically, humans became aware that we weren't the center of the universe, that it wasn't all around us, that there were perhaps forces, enormous scientific forces, even more powerful than our little planet and what created it. So now, as far as activities we're going to be doing the debate of the century. So you can pick your side. We're going back in time to the 1600s and Galileo's discoveries, and we're going to argue, is the universe geocentric or heliocentric? Now, the thing is, though, you can't use any kind of modern scientific evidence, such as photographs from space or things of that nature. It all has to be based on observations you could see from the ground, and perhaps with a telescope. Because so basically, from your perspective, if you see, hey, gee, I feel like the Earth is not moving, but the sun, I see that moving. Therefore, it's the sun that's moving, not the Earth. That could be an argument you make. So I'm going to enable comments. So you can actually write down below here. You can take a side. You can take the geocentric side with Ptolemy, or you can take the heliocentric with Copernicus and Galileo, and you can have at it and see what if you can triumph over your classmates in a debate. If you're not comfortable taking part in that debate, then just send me a quick email with your thoughts, and then I will share those in a group post, and I'll share your thoughts anonymously with the rest of the group in the debate. So give it some thought, and good luck in the debate of the century.